Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Health Edition. And today we're continuing our reading of The Body's Many Cries for Water by Dr. B. I call him Dr. B because I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyways, the subtitle is You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. Don't treat thirst with medication. And today's episode, we're going to be reading chapter 5, and this is part 1. So this book was inspired by the fundamentals. I think it's important to learn about the building blocks of life as we know it. And water is one of them. The others are fire, earth, and air, and ether. If you want to include the fifth element. Interesting, like the story. All right. Oh, let me move the book here a little bit. If you have a book, you could follow with us there. If not, you could follow with us here on the screen. And in the meantime, check out our other book clubs. We have a spiritual book club on Mondays, and then financial book clubs on Tuesdays. We have a monthly newsletter that we put out, so sign up for that to follow us and our many adventures. And we have podcasts that we put out as well, so check that out. You could find that on our website. Yeah, so I interview interesting people. I think they're interesting anyways. So and then check out our YouTube channel as well. We put all our podcasts and also past books that we've read on there, so you could check those out. And if you find this helpful, consider supporting us with our merch. We're working on different designs, and we're going to put that up pretty soon. And then if you're local in the Los Angeles area, come and visit us in person. Or if you're traveling to Los Angeles, come visit us in person. We have a healing center that we use. We use technologies based on Nikola Tesla's scalar wave research for holistic healing for both animals and mostly dogs and cats, domestic dogs and cats, and humans. So check that out. You could find more information about that on our website as well. And if you have a book you want the book club to read or recommend, let us know. I'll put the link in the description box below. And yeah, we'll consider it. Okay, so let's do this. Here's a picture. Looks like a little bear, doesn't it? But I think it's earth. Earth and water. At first, I thought it was a little bear. It's got the 2 eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But no, that's the earth. It's round. And water. Okay. So this quote says, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." George Bernard Shaw. All right, chapter 5, stress and depression. The state of depression is said to exist when the brain, in confronting a stressful emotional problem, finds it difficult to cope with other attention-demanding actions at the same time. This phenomenon can become so all-absorbing as to incapacitate the person. In the long run, such a stressful drain on brain activity can produce different manifestations that are labeled according to the person's outward behavior pattern. 10 million Americans are said to be suffering from one form or another of such conditions. Infinitely greater numbers are experiencing or will at one time or another the milder forms of milder forms of depression. I think depression, just a side note, I think depression is normal. I mean, you go through up and downs in life, and it is kind of normal to have some form of depression, when you're down and out, all that stuff. But I think major depression is a whole different ballgame. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. Some form of depression is a natural, I just said that. Boy, I am psychic, aren't I? Some form of depression is a natural phenomenon in the process of development and progress of any individual. It is in these states of consuming mental activity that characters are developed and the inner metal of the individual is forged. Naturally, coping with different aspects of one's negative feelings is part and parcel of the process. Almost always, the state of depression is a passing phenomenon of of love, care, and empathy are available to nudge the individual in the direction of a resolution of negative inner thoughts. Unfortunately, some people are not able to cope with the fears, anxieties, and angers that are associated with depression. Seeking professional help, they are given some form of medication. When depression was first treated chemically, the medications were less harmful. Today, they are very powerful and sometimes dangerous. Some form of them will strip from those treated the ability to emotionally feel for themselves as well as for others. Some of these medications can destroy empathy and fix a negative idea in particularly vulnerable persons. These people may more easily become suicidal as well as antisocial and homicidal. What I explained in this chapter is the reason for the inefficiency of the physiology associated with stress and depression. What I propose is the way to increase the efficiency of brain power to cope with extremely severe emotional stress and its outward manifestations of depression. I have experienced and have observed in many others all of the positive aspects to what I am proposing. Pathology that is seen to be associated with quote, social stresses, fear, anxiety, insecurity, persistent emotional and matrimonial problems, and the establishment of depression are the result of water deficiency to the point that the water requirement of the brain tissue is affected. The brain uses electrical energy that is generated by the water drive of the energy generating pumps. With dehydration, the level of energy generation in the brain is decreased. Many functions of the brain that depend on this type of energy become inefficient. We recognize this inequality of function and call it depression. This depressive state caused by dehydration can lead to chronic fatigue syndrome. This condition is a label put on a series of advanced physiological problems that are associated with stress. Another side note, depression can come in many forms. So there are some that are chemically inadequate, that you have to treat chemically. But a lot of times, sometimes it's physiologically. So my teacher told us a little story about her experience with depression. One day she woke up very depressed, like suicidal depressed, like, oh, I want to, I don't want to live anymore kind of thing. It turns out she was just hungry. And after she had breakfast, I mean, she needed to fast that day because of a lab test. So that's why, her depression came about. But, after she got her lab thing done and she had breakfast, she was fine. She was like, oh, the sun is up. I'm alive. I'm happy. So, I mean, that's a very simple story, but it kind of gets to show depression comes in different forms and different shades and different reasons. So you got to find your reason. If we understand the events that take place in stress, we will also understand chronic fatigue syndrome. After a period of time for correcting for dehydration and its metabolic complications, chronic fatigue syndrome will improve beyond recognition. The following pages define the physiological events and possible metabolic overrides that can lead to the depletion of certain body reserves that may be the basic problem in chronic fatigue syndrome. Initially, silent compensation mechanisms associated with dehydration. When the body becomes dehydrated, the physiological processes that establish are the same ones that occur when coping with stress. Dehydration equals stress, and once stress establishes, there is an associated mobilization of primary materials from the body's stores. This process, quote, mops up some of the water reserves of the body Consequently, dehydration causes stress, and stress causes further dehydration. In stress, several hormonal overrides become operative. The body assumes a crisis situation and begins to mobilize for a fight or flight response. The body does not seem to recognize the social transformation of humans. It assesses all situations of stress as though a fight or flight stance has to be maintained, even with stresses associated with work in an office. Several strong hormones are secreted and remain, quote, triggered until the body gets out of its stressful situation. These hormones are mainly endorphins, cortisol release factors, prolactin, vasopressin, and renin-angiotensin. Oh, here is a picture. Dehydration, the main destructive factor in stress, the vicious cycle and spiral. So you have stress that causes dehydration, and it excretes vasopressin, endorphins, cortisol, renin, angiotensin, and prolactin. Now, the endorphins and prolactin are primarily a female. If I remember my anatomy and physiology, which is like 30 years ago. uh, endorphins and prolactin. I know this is for birth, for babies, pregnancy and stuff, but primarily in women. Okay. So figure 9, a schematic representation of hormonal secretions during continued spiral of stress or chronic dehydration. Endorphins, cortisol, prolactin, and vasopressin. We're going to get a little physiology lesson here today. Endorphins prepare the body to endure hardship and injury until it gets out of danger. They also raise the pain threshold. With an injury that would have caused pain at a lower endorphin level with an umbrella of endorphins, the body is able to continue with its task. Because of childbirth and monthly menstruation, women seem to access this hormone more readily. They generally have a greater ability to withstand pain and stress. Cortisol initiates the remobilization of stored energies and raw materials. Fat is broken down into fatty acids to be converted into energy. Some proteins are once again broken down into basic amino acids for the formation of extra neurotransmitters, new proteins, and some special amino acids to be burned by the muscles. During pregnancy, breastfeeding, this hormone and its associates mobilize a uniform flow of primary materials for the purpose of offspring development. If the action of cortisol continues for too long, there will soon be some selective depletion from the amino acid reserves of the body. Under the influence of cortisol, the body continues to feed off itself. The effect of cortisol is designed to provide emergency raw materials for the production of the most essential primary proteins and neurotransmitters to get the body, quote, over the hump. It is not designed for the continued breakdown of materials employed in the maintenance of the structural integrity of the body. It is this phenomenon that produces the damage associated with stress, if the stressor maintains its unabated influence. Prolactin ensures that the lactating mother continues to produce milk. It primes the gland cells in the breast to continue milk production, even if there is dehydration or stress that will cause dehydration. It primes the gland cells to regenerate and increase in quantity. We should remember that although we concentrate on the solid composition of the milk, it is its water content that is of primary importance to the growing fetus. Every time a cell gives rise to a daughter cell, 75% or more of its volume has to be filled with water. In short, growth depends on the availability of water. When water is brought to the area, the cells are able to access its dissolved contents. Prolactin is also made in the placenta and stored in the amniotic fluid surrounding the fetus. In short, this hormone has a, quote, mammotrophic action. It takes the breast glands and their ducts. It makes the breast glands and their ducts grow. Growth hormone has much similarity to prolactin. They have similar actions, except that prolactin mainly targets the organs of reproduction. It has been shown in mice that increased prolactin production causes mammary tumors. In 1987, I proposed in my guest lecture address to an international group of cancer researchers that chronic dehydration in the human body is a primary causative factor for tumor production. The relationship between stress, age-dependent chronic dehydration, persistent prolactin secretion, and cancer transformation of the glandular tissue in the breast should not be overlooked. A regular adjustment to daily water intake, particularly when confronting stresses of daily life, will at least serve as a preventive measure against possible development of stress-related breast cancer in the age group of women predisposed to this problem and prostate cancer in men. Vasopressin regulates the selective flow of water into some cells of the body. It also causes a constriction of the capillaries it activates. As the name implies, it causes vasoconstriction. It is produced in the pituitary gland and secreted into the circulation. While it may constrict the blood vessels, some vital cells possess receiving points or receptors for this hormone. Depending on the hierarchy of their importance, some cells seem to possess more vasopressin receptors than others. The cell membrane, the protective covering of cell architecture, is naturally designed in two layers. Tuning fork-like solid hydrocarbon bricks are held together by the adhesive property of water. See Figure 14. Between the two layers is a connecting passageway where enzymes travel, selectively react together, and cause a desired action within the cell. The waterway works very much like a moat or beltway, except that it is water-filled beltway and everything has to flow in it. When there is a sufficient water to fill all the spaces, the moat gets filled and water also enters the cell. There may come a time when the rate of water flow into the cell may not be sufficient, and some of the cell functions may become affected. To safeguard against such a possible catastrophic situation, nature has designed a magnificent mechanism for the creation of water filters through the membranes. When vasopressin reaches the cell membrane and fuses with its especially designed receptor, the receptor converts to a shower head structure and makes it possible filtration of only water through its holes. Here is another picture. Water filtration through cell membrane. So this is a pictorial representation of what we just read. So this is a single nerve cell. Here. These are the fine connecting nerves. So these are I think the information receptors, right? Fine connecting nerves. These are the cell's long nerves. A microscopic segment of nerve cell membrane. So we're looking at part of this here, maybe a bigger portion, right? A large portion. So the vasopressin hormone and its receptors. Here's the water molecules only entering the cells. The receptor converts to a shower head and filters only water molecules into the cell. So figure 10 here, it says the schematic model of a nerve cell. It's bilayer membrane and the vasopressin receptor that converts into a shower head structure and allows for the filtered water from the serum to enter the cells that have the receptor. Vasopressin also produces vasoconstriction, which puts a squeeze on the blood volume to produce the pressure for water filtration reverse osmosis. So let me move the camera back a little bit so you guys can see the whole picture. And if you want to study that, you can pause it and look at it. Okay, so we'll stop here for now. That's a very interesting physiology lesson. Brings back memories. All right, so we will continue next week. And I hope you enjoyed this little chapter for you who are science geeks out there, which is not me. I was very bad with science. That's probably because I didn't remember. I don't remember anything. So, and science is very left brain, very left brain activity. Facts, figures, and logic and details. That's a left brain activity. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that, and we will see you next week for another video episode, another reading. And in the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great week. Okay, bye-bye now.